we are now moving into our workshopping part of today. And I know it's been a long day already, and I really appreciate your time and attention, but I'm hoping we can like pull together for just just a little bit longer and actually do the curriculum mapping piece of this. So let me share my screen and show you what we're going to be doing. Can everybody see this? Hopefully you can.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to be doing a lot of our afternoon work in small groups, but this is the format that we're going to follow. So we have 4 tasks that we need to try to map today. 4 tasks that need to be integrated into our existing courses. So we're going to do this one task at a time, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be complete, but it'll give us a direction. And that's what's really important. So each task, we're going to be doing the same sort of format. First, I'm going to introduce the task we're going to be working on. So I'll tell you about the task, and I'll show you the rubrics, and I'll show you where all the resources are that you can use for your small group discussion. Then we're going to move into our small groups. You're going to be separated into subject areas and junior methods. So science, math, literacy, social studies, and junior methods. If we don't have enough folks, we may end up combining a couple of groups. So for instance, social studies and literacy may get combined. We'll have to see before we move into our first one. In your small group, you're going to be discussing how those rubrics for the task fit into your courses. So the goal here is to figure out what we are doing in our classes that fits naturally with the edTPA tasks. Not to do the least work, but so that we're not pushing too much to change everything, right? We want to find things that fit naturally. So in your small groups, you're going to be looking at the task, you're going to be looking at those specific rubrics, because let's say that we don't want to do all of task 1 in a class, that's fine. Maybe we just want to focus on rubrics 2 and 3, great. So you're going to discuss that. I'm going to show you a file where you're going to add your ideas for the courses and which fits with which rubric. And then we're going to come back as a whole group, look at the work that you all have done individually, and discuss if there's any overlap or issues. Now, each task has like a 30-minute round. I don't know for sure if it's actually going to be 30 minutes per task. It might be a little less. I'm really hoping it's not more, because we have less than 2 hours. But task 4 only has 3 rubrics, so maybe that one would be a little bit shorter. All right, so that's the format. Do I have any questions about what we're going to be doing for the next little while here?
Did you want to drop the link again, just for everyone to have easy access?
Yes. Okay. So is there anybody who would be willing to drop the link for the PowerPoint and the resources folder into the chat for me? That would be super helpful. So any questions before I move into task 1? And actually, let me see. Before I do that, let me show you the file we'll be using. So hopefully over your lunch break, you were able to read the commentary sections for the elementary handbook. That should give you some information about what we expect from students for each of these tasks. In the resources folder, you're going to find 4 subfolders that are broken down by task. These are just screenshots of the rubrics for easy access. Okay, so you can click into one. This is rubric 1. If you click into this right here, curriculum mapping TLAC, this is the Excel file that we're all going to be working off of. If you don't want to open it yourself, just be sure that somebody in your small group has access to this and is editing as you all chat. The goal here, okay, so you can see how I've created this document. Task 1, the rubric, what the rubric is called, and the question involved for that rubric. And then here, I'm going to be having us list the class that we think is a good fit for this rubric. Let's say that you get into your small group and you say, you know what, we're on task 1. I'm not sure that there's a great fit for any of my courses. Then you put down what you think is best. And then when we come back as a whole group, you can say, I don't feel like there was a great fit. And maybe there's a good fit in another class that everybody has to take. That's fine. There will be overlap here. So there will be multiple classes that are covering task 1, 2, 3, and 4. There will be multiple classes that are covering rubrics 1 through 5, whatever. That's okay. At the end of this, my goal is to have this fill out. You don't need to worry about that. Mostly we are focusing on this sheet right here, okay? You will just list your course in here. All right. So questions before I move us into task 1. The goal here is task 1 and 2, a short break, and then task 3 and 4, and then we're done. And Cassidy, you have all of our small groups set up?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So we're just going to move ahead and hope this goes well. We can tweak the process as needed if things don't work. All right. So task 1, you should know by now, this is our planning segment. So students need to plan a 3 to 5 lesson learning segment for a specific set of learners and write a commentary. Hopefully you read that commentary over the lunch break. They need to be submitting lesson plans, materials, assessments, a context for learning, and the commentary. So that multi-page guided sort of question response. Okay. These are the rubrics involved in assessing task 1. So planning for literacy learning. How do the candidates' plans build on students' understanding of an essential literacy strategy? I'm not going to read all of these questions to you. I'm hoping you can discuss this in your small groups. Rubric 2 is planning to support varied student learning needs. So how do they deal with differentiation? How do they target different types of learning? Number 3, using knowledge of learning to inform teaching and learning. So what types of pedagogy are they using? How do they justify their plans for teaching? 4 is identifying and supporting language demands. And we've heard multiple times today, this is not just a literacy skill. Every subject area has academic language needs. So it is about supporting the language demands across all subject areas. And then rubric 5, which is planning assessments to monitor and support student learning. So what are the types of formal and informal assessments they use? How do they monitor students' progress? Okay, so that's our task 1. We're gonna move you into small groups. You're gonna have a quick chat with your group mates, and you're going to open this file and decide which course you think fits for each of these rubrics. It's okay if you only cover 1 or 2. It's okay if you want to cover all 5 in a class. It will be refined. That's the goal. So before we move you into small groups, are there any other questions?
Sarah, what's the best supplementary resource to utilize for more information of these?
Yeah, so I would recommend if you have access to this PowerPoint, which everyone should, go back to this resources slide right here. I would use the task 1 rubrics and the commentary sheets for the elementary handbook. That's what I would suggest. So the commentary sheets are all listed here. For task 1, it's pages 15 to 17. And then you're going to want the task 1 rubrics, all of which have those image files in the folder. Other questions? Again, it's not going to be perfect. It's okay. It's okay. I'm only giving you 15 minutes to chat as a group, so. All right. I'm going to stop my share. And let's see, right now it's 2:15. So Cassidy, if you could move them into their breakout rooms and we can set a timer for 15 minutes. And then everybody will meet back here.
Okay, I am pushing you all out now. I combine literacy and social studies.
Survey. How was that in terms of time? I'm sure it wasn't a ton of time. Were you able to get something done?
We need double time.
Perfect. I don't have that. But I can give you 20 minutes if we can get through the first and the third part of things very quickly. So let's see how it goes. All right, so here's what we found. I'm not gonna have everybody share out. I guess I would encourage you, so I can tell you that what we discussed in science is to really think about how much we need to do from each task, because we don't want to overload our courses with a ton of different rubrics. So while there are things that could be really good fits, we don't want to say like, great, we're going to do all of these rubrics in task 1 because they all fit really well, but also the ones in task 2 fit really well, and also the task 3 ones. So just try to be really judicious when it comes to assigning courses to a rubric. Does anybody want to I guess share something that would be helpful for us as we move into task 2 that you found in your small groups?
Yeah, when we were discussing, we were trying to, of course, I want to highlight MEFB 452 because that's actually a middle grades course. So I didn't know we had a middle school person only. So I don't know if we want to take that out and just have the conversation within our group so we don't confuse the map.
Maybe
or if
for
we want to
now,
highlight it.
maybe for now, only because we discussed that in
Okay.
science as well. Like there are good fits for MEFB, but I think this is just the elementary certification map, but your notes on where things sit are very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Ms. Dawn, we still have to do syllabi for middle methods. So we're gonna have to make these adjustments anyway.
Something, sorry, can I say?
Yeah, no, go.
Something that was clear is that there are many things, most of things in task 1 that necessarily need to be introduced in sophomore and junior methods, because you need to do tasks 2 and 3 and 4 when you're in senior. So that was one observation that Michelle made that I think it's really accurate.
Yeah, I do think that just introducing task 1 during the sophomore, like freshman and sophomore year, we're probably going to need to integrate some aspects of tasks 2 and 3 into those earlier years to support our students as they move forward, because it definitely can't just be a senior methods thing.
I think
But it,
for junior methods and EDCI 354, like we do almost all of task 1 in depth. And so through our lesson plans and having taught several senior methods, I think it'd be helpful for those to come later when you're diving a little deeper. So like that's just having taught both levels. And if we don't want to overload, senior methods is going to have plenty later. And we're already doing it in junior methods.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a balance. We're going to need these task 1s definitely need to be in freshman, sophomore years. And then we add to it as they go through the program. So, as you're thinking about these things, if you want to revisit task 1 and you see some things in there that you want to change, you can.
Yeah, Sarah, one thing is, one is things can't be freshman, sophomore year because we're gonna have so many transfer students, junior 2, that we'll need to accommodate for all of them. So everything needs to be embedded junior 2 and afterwards as well.
Yes, everything, tasks 1 through 4 will all be embedded in junior and senior methods.
Right. So one thing that will actually save you time later on, I think, and would be helpful for us as we are going through this. One is, yes, I think additional time in those small groups, just kind of a consolidated time to be able to do the remainder of the task, because you don't think of each rubric in isolation or each task in isolation either. It was helpful for Kristen and I to be able to go through all of them. But if it's possible for people, as you start filling in the courses, to I know you haven't introduced it yet, Sarah, but in the second tab where we start talking about things in terms of introduced, practiced, and delivered,
Right.
we can notify that in this first tab in the by rubric. That will allow
Yes.
us to be able to figure out to what extent do we need to do it if we don't already do it, but like it fits naturally in that course.
I
So if we
agree.
know where other courses are doing it and to what extent, then that will hopefully help to shape the remainder of the conversation already.
Right. And even if you don't know other subject areas, you know, as you think about your own sequences within a subject area, yes, thinking about which ones will be introduced, which ones will be practiced. And then obviously delivered is that senior year. Okay. So I'm hearing we want more time in small groups. We can definitely do that. Let me just briefly, so we're moving on to task 2. Again, this isn't going to be perfect. We are going to revise this as needed. So task 2 is our teach the learning segment. During this time, our students are going to teach, they're going to record via Go React, which we just heard a very long training about. And then they're going to write a commentary about what they did. So that's their reflection of their teaching. Here are the rubrics we're going to be looking at. So learning environment, do they demonstrate a positive learning environment that supports engagement? How do they engage students in learning? What skills do they use to do that? How do they deepen students' learning? And then subject-specific pedagogy. So the pedagogy that we had in task 1, that rubric 3 is very similar here to rubric 9. Okay. What are we using pedagogy wise? And then rubric 10, which is analyzing teaching effectiveness. So this is very much based on the reflection that students write after they look at their recording. So I'm going to give you 20 minutes in your small groups to look at task 2 and then time to revise task 1 if you need to. And then when we come back at 3 o'clock, we're going to take a really brief break just to give people a little time. And then we're going to come right back for the last 2 tasks. Any questions before I move you back into your small groups for task 2? Okay. Cassidy, if you could put a timer on there for 20 minutes and we'll move into our discussion rooms. Welcome back, friends. That's what I always say to my students in class. All right. Only 45 minutes left. We can do this. We can do this. Okay. So oh, Junior, I didn't realize that Andy had texted me. Okay, so Kristen, would you prefer to join a different group since Andy's done? Maybe Kristen's not there. I'll ask her when she comes back. Okay, so let me share my screen. We are now on to task 3. So task 3 is analyze student learning. During this task, our students will be analyzing the assessments that they give their students, providing them with feedback, and then writing a commentary about those things. They need to collect student work samples. They need to collect feedback that they've given to students, an academic language artifact, and then, as always, the commentary. Here are the rubrics that are associated with task 3. So analysis of student learning. This one is just focused on how well do they analyze the assessment that they give to students, like how well do they analyze what students are actually learning in class. Rubric 12 is providing feedback. So how well do they do providing those feedback to the candidates, to the students. Rubric, man, I'm losing my mind a little bit, y'all. It's been a long day. Rubric 13, student understanding and use of feedback. This one is focused on how they get students to use their feedback to move forward. Rubric 14, analyzing students' language use and literacy learning. So how do they use language to develop content understanding? And then rubric 15, using assessment to inform instruction. So how do you essentially decide the next steps based on the assessment and how it went? Any questions before we move into our, I'm gonna give us 20 minutes in this small group, and hopefully we can move through this and task 4 fairly quickly. So any questions before we move into those groups? Okay, so Cassidy, if you could give us 20 minutes and move us into breakout rooms. Welcome back. Okay, so we finished 3 tasks. I think this last one is a little bit more confusing or specific because it is very specifically a math task. And so in some ways, I don't know that we all need to do this one. But I don't know, could I get some feedback regarding what we want to do for this last task?
I was thinking maybe we can use this time to go back to what we've been discussing on previous. Maybe we have some holes that we want to jump back into. That's a suggestion.
Well,
Okay.
can I just add a couple of comments just from like, so certainly when you think about the rubric 17, that's specific to mathematics, but some of the places that we saw that students still struggled with was you know, creating assessments and determining evaluation criteria. So if that can be captured in previous courses or earlier courses or at some point, and then also the idea of re-engagement, the idea of identifying areas of struggle or misconception, and then thinking about how to re-engage, that can be in any content area. So if they could have practice of that before coming to this task, then they can then use it and apply, you know, do the math piece.
Yeah, that's good. That gives us some guidance for how to incorporate this in other non-math based courses.
And I think
And
that
definitely in the math, we are supporting our literacy courses. So it wouldn't hurt to take a minute.
Yes.
no, I think it's part of, I also identify where are we seeing holes would be a good thing to discuss at the end.
Okay, so because it's 3:40, I'm gonna ask that we do this last small group in just 15 minutes. That way that gives us 5 minutes to wrap up, because I definitely don't want to go over anybody's time more than we have to. So for this last one, see what you can fit for task 4 and then revisit earlier tasks as needed. And then we can spend 5 minutes just talking about a wrap up and next steps. Okay. So Cassie, if you could give us 15 minutes on this last breakout room, and I'll see you all in 15 minutes.
Here they come.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, it's 3:57.
It is. Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna ask you like one favor. My last question in the PowerPoint is, what is one concern that you still have about the curriculum map? And I really would love if you could just briefly write an answer in the chat for us to look at those things, like especially the task force leaders. What is one concern based on all the work we did that you have about the curriculum map? So I'll let you work on that while Valerie, Dr. Hill Jackson, chats with us about next steps, because you did it. Yay, congratulations. High five, everybody. Round of
High five. Woohoo. And we have the recording to prove it, and our folks couldn't be here. They can go back and see all the great work and all the great presentations that our friends from SPED did. Very quickly, I want to wrap up what the next steps are. So I'm actually drafting an email to Dr. De Miranda to outline the following, guys. So basically saying that great progress has been made with the curriculum map, but it remains unfinished. So it is my recommendation to him that he call a meeting with program leaders that would include people like who are over senior methods, associate department chair, other program areas, to say, here's where we are. And you all need to sort of ensure that it's finished up. In terms of your individual responsibility, I would say that if there is a course that you have your hands on many semesters in a row, go in and finish up your portion of that curriculum map. Go in and finish up the learning outcomes, or, you know, list some relevant activities, but do your part. Don't wait for them. I mean, our other friends in TLAC to finish up their part, because I'm now asking Dr. Dave Miranda to pass the baton to them. You all and our peers cannot finish their syllabus until the map is done, right? How can you go further with your syllabus until the map is done? So I'm going to try and stress that point in my email to him. So I'm asking him to encourage his leaders to do what they need to do. In the meantime, you guys are working on it independently. And I'm also going to share with him at that meeting before May 31st, a list of things that need to be included, activities for candidates in the senior methods calendar. There are certain things, right, milestones that have to be hit. So the senior methods folks, they have to be involved in this. So I'm going to give him that list as well. I can share it with you all just in case I'm missing anything. But in my opinion, the task force, you've done your deliverables. You get to work now on your syllabus and wrapping up your portion of the curriculum map so we can turn it over to our friends. I think those are the kind of the big ideas. And is there anything you guys think I need to take forward to Dr. De Miranda? My concern, how do we make sure we're not overlapping too much across our class? Okay, your concerns, all right. So I'm wondering if someone's grabbing all those concerns so we can make sure that they're in a place for our kind of debrief. I've been taking notes the last couple of days. Some of the big ideas that I think need to be attended to. I'll have like a 1 or 2 page document. You guys probably remember things you want to dump into that debrief. We can all sort of share in that that document as well. Oh, screenshot it. Very good. Very good. Okay. All right. So if you all agree that the next step should be to take this to Dr. De Miranda, let, you know, our undergraduate representative, senior methods representative, let them have the next step to this implementation process.